Hey there. Tonight we drift somewhere. Warm, wet, and impossibly alive. The Amazon rainforest and emerald ocean, stretching across 9 countries, beating like the lungs of the world. You can almost feel the moisture already, can't you? Thick, heavy air that makes your hair curl and your breath slow. Every leaf exhales, every drop of mist clings to your skin. You're not walking through a forest tonight, you're floating through it. It's beautiful and a little terrifying. Because let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a week here. Between mosquitoes the size of raisins frogs that can stop your heart and humidity that could make a toaster cry, this is a place that humbles everything human. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. For now, just breathe. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Maybe it's midnight in Ohio or dawn in Manila, but wherever you are, this is your space to rest. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You close your eyes and the hum of traffic dissolves. In its place, a low, endless whisper rises, the sound of 10 billion leaves rubbing against one another. The forest around you is so dense, it feels like standing inside the lungs of the earth itself. Moist air fills your nostrils with a scent of moss and fruit. Beneath your feet, a carpet of fallen petals and bark cushions every step. Even your heartbeat feels slower, syncing with the rhythm of dripping water. They call it the green ocean for a reason. From above, the Amazon doesn't look like land at all. It's a vast, rippling sea of treetops, broken only by veins of silver rivers. This single forest makes up over half of the planet's remaining rainforests, 5.5 million square kilometers of pure breathing wilderness. And yes, it actually breathes. The trees inhale carbon dioxide, exhale oxygen, producing about 20% of the world's supply. So technically, you're breathing recycled rainforest air right now. You're welcome. But even this ocean isn't still. Its waves aren't water, they're life. Scientists estimate that 1 out of every 10 known species lives here. That's birds, bugs, snakes, monkeys, bacteria you'd rather not meet, and plants so strange they make science fiction look under-researched. Some estimates say there are still thousands, maybe millions of undiscovered species hiding in the shadows, politely ignoring human curiosity. You pause to listen. Somewhere close, a howler monkey roars a deep, resonant call that sounds like a motorcycle trapped in a tunnel. It vibrates through your chest. The funny thing, that sound can travel up to 5 kilometers through the forest. Scientists still argue whether they roar to claim territory or just to express how much they hate Mondays. Everywhere you look, the forest moves, not with wind, but with intent. Ants form endless highways. Vines coil like green snakes. Even the air seems alive, heavy with invisible spores and drifting pollen. The Amazon doesn't simply contain life. It manufactures it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without overtime pay. The ground itself is a paradox. It looks rich, thick with color, full of decay and growth. But the soil is surprisingly poor in nutrients. The forest survives by recycling almost everything instantly. A leaf falls, decomposes in days, and becomes part of another life form before you can even say compost. Alf, it's like a biological stock exchange down here where every molecule gets traded, borrowed, and reused. You step forward, and the forest closes behind you, swallowing footprints in seconds. Above you, the canopy filters sunlight into liquid gold. Occasionally, a shaft of brightness pierces through, spotlighting a single fern or beetle like nature's stage lighting. You half expect applause. Somewhere in that golden haze, a bird the size of your hand lands on a vine mannequin. Bright blue chest, black wings, and it performs a little moonwalk to impress potential mates. Yes, literally moonwalks. Scientists filmed it. They still argue whether this is evolution's way of producing Michael Jackson references in nature. You breathe deeper now. The air hums with electricity, not the man-made kind, but something older, slower. A tension between predator and prey, between sunlight and shadow. You feel it in your spine, the knowledge that this forest has existed for at least 55 million years. Civilizations have risen and crumbled, while these trees stood still, politely photosynthesizing. You reach a small clearing where ancient roots rise like petrified waves. They belong to a kapok tree sacred to many indigenous groups. The roots form walls taller than you, wrapping the base like a fortress. Touch one, it's smooth and cold like stone. These giants can grow more than 60 meters tall, their crowns piercing the clouds. They've seen everything: droughts, floods, explorers, satellites. Scientists call them keystone species, meaning if they fall, entire ecosystems crumble with them. And yet they stand quietly, no protests, no speeches. Just the slow, relentless work of survival. Somewhere high above, a macaw screeches in neon blue and gold. Another answers, echoing through the canopy like laughter. The rainforest is never silent. Even its stillness hums. You think about how every breath of yours is linked to this chaos. Half the oxygen you breathe comes from photosynthetic organisms like these, though most actually from ocean plankton. Sorry, trees, you had good PR. Still, without the Amazon, Earth would wheeze a little harder. And right now, as you listen to the slow heartbeat of this place, you realize you've started to match its rhythm. Somewhere, a leaf frog croaks, a strange sound, like someone flicking a wet balloon. It's both comical and comforting. The frog itself might be perched just inches away, invisible translucent skin glowing under the dim light. Some of them have toxins potent enough to paralyze a jaguar, yet here they just sit, tiny, patient, singing lullabies into the dark. You smile faintly. Life here isn't gentle, but it's patient. The Amazon doesn't rush. It grows, decays, feeds, and renews in a loop older than humanity itself. And as you stand here, the forest exhales, the mist curls, and the sound of a million lives merges into one steady, soothing whisper. Maybe that's the secret. You can't control nature here. You just breathe with it. Let it remind you that survival, even in the harshest world, can still sound like music. You wander deeper into the mist, and the air changes. It grows cooler, heavier. Each inhale feels like sipping warm tea through your lungs. The steady percussion of water surrounds you, not just from above, but all around. This is the rainforest's heartbeat, rain that never truly stops. Some drops fall fast, heavy enough to splatter across your shoulders, while others drift down lazily, like they got lost on the way. Each droplet joins another, dripping off ferns and curling vines, until they form tiny rivulets across roots, pooling into clear puddles that mirror the canopy's green ceiling. It's not just weather, it's architecture. The Amazon makes its own rain. Moisture rises from the leaves in a process called evapotranspiration, forming clouds that later fall as rain again. a perfect recycling loop. About half the region's rainfall comes from this self-made sky. It's like the forest has built its own plumbing system designed by gods with a love for humidity. You can almost taste it, the soft mineral tang of ancient water. It's the same water that's been traveling the planet for billions of years. The same molecules once drifted over dinosaurs, soaked the Andes, and maybe at some point passed through your tap this morning. Now it rests on your skin again, warm and new. A gentle breeze stirs, and the canopy releases another wave of droplets, turning sunlight into a curtain of diamonds. Each one hits a leaf with a whisper. Together they sound like applause, a standing ovation from 10 million plants for simply existing. You keep walking though. Walking feels wrong. It's more like gliding. The forest floor is soft and forgiving. Occasionally your foot sinks into dark mud, and you imagine what lies below roots, layered upon roots, fungi stretching for miles, maybe even a stray gold coin from some long-vanished explorer. People have searched these lands for El Dorado, the city of gold, for centuries. They never found it, but maybe the gold was always this sunlight, dripping through rain. The rain thickens suddenly, a quick downpour like someone flipped a celestial switch. You duck under a broad palm, its fronds forming a perfect umbrella. Water hits the ground with rhythmic intensity, drumming a pattern older than speech. Somewhere in the distance, thunder mutters, a lazy giant rolling over in his sleep. You exhale, realizing that this sound could lull anyone to sleep. Maybe that's why so many white noise playlists try to imitate it in the world's oldest lullaby. Real rainforest rain doesn't just fall, it breathes. It begins with a sigh, crescendos into chaos, then fades like a whisper saying goodnight. Scientists say that the Amazon receives between 80 to 260 inches of rain each year, depending on where you stand. In some places, the air is so saturated that laundry never truly dries. In others, rain falls for hours without pause, blurring the line between day and night. It's a world where even sound feels damp. But there's a secret to this endless water cycle. Beneath your feet, thousands of kilometers of invisible roots pull from aquifers so deep that they defy maps. Some of the oldest trees here, over 1,000 years old, use these hidden water reserves during the rare dry months. Scientists still argue whether this underground irrigation system counts as a conscious network of cooperation. They debate if trees can signal distress, urging clouds to gather. It sounds poetic, but maybe the forest truly calls for rain when it thirsts. A large leaf above you trembles, and a tree frog hops down beside your boot. It's tiny neon green with red eyes and yellow toes, like it dressed for Mardi Gras. It blinks slowly, as if considering whether you're part of the landscape. You both share a brief moment of curiosity before it vanishes into a puddle with a sound not unlike a soap bubble popping. That's the Amazon in one heartbeat, beauty gone before you can even process it. Scientists have cataloged over 1,000 species of amphibians here, but every year they find more. Some survive by mimicking leaves. Others hide their eggs in droplets caught by bromeliads. There's even a rare glass frog whose body is so transparent you can watch its tiny heart beating through its skin. It's the sort of fact that sounds too magical to be true, yet it's biology quietly at work. You tilt your head back and watch the rain filter through the canopy again. Each drop lands differently, some sharp, some soft, others forming a mist so fine it feels like breathing cloud. And somewhere out there, a tapir is probably enjoying the same shower, blissfully unaware of how cinematic it looks. A log across the path gleams slick with moss. You balance across it, carefully arms out, feeling like a tightrope walker between centuries. The air smells like wet soil and citrus. Fungi glow faintly in the dim light, tiny lanterns on decay. You run your hand along the bark and your fingers come away streaked with green like nature's watercolor. Rain softens again, tapering to a drizzle. You hear the forest exhale the sigh after exertion. A spider web catches the last droplets, each one refracting the forest into miniature worlds. It's oddly peaceful watching water do what it's done forever. Fall, flow, disappear, return. Somewhere behind the veil of leaves, a river murmurs, slow and deep. You'll reach it soon. But for now, you listen to this rain as if it's telling you something important, that cycles matter more than moments. That the end is just another beginning disguised as water. You smile faintly because that's exactly how sleep works too. It falls, it flows, it returns. The rain fades, leaving behind that faint electric silence that follows every storm. You stand still listening. From somewhere high above, a slow drip begins, raindrops caught on leaves, finally surrendering to gravity one by one. Each sound echoes small yet endless. You tilt your head up and glimpse movement through the thick canopy. It's hard to tell where the trees end and the sky begins. The trunks stretch up like ancient towers, vanishing into green haze. This is the living sky, the upper world of the Amazon, a kingdom above the clouds. You step closer to one of the giants, its bark so wide you'd need 10 people to encircle it. Scientists say that in parts of the Amazon, trees can reach over 80 meters tall, roughly the height of a 20-story building. Some of them were already alive when Da Vinci was still sketching helicopters. Their branches form a dense ceiling, locking out most sunlight, yet somehow keeping everything beneath alive. The canopy catches sunlight, converts it, and redistributes life like a benevolent dictator. It's not just shade, it's governance. You crane your neck until it aches, but the top remains lost in mist. The tree before you is likely a Brazil nut or a kapok II of the forest's true architects. Their roots sprawl like foundations anchoring entire ecosystems. Squirrels, monkeys, and parrots depend on their fruits. Beetles tunnel into their bark. Orchids hang from their limbs like chandeliers. Even fallen leaves host their own tiny nations of insects. There's a strange serenity in realizing that this single tree might feed shelter or employ hundreds of species. You lean your palm against its trunk and feel a faint vibration. It's not your imagination, and the tree is alive, humming with sap, its internal systems pushing nutrients upward at a pace that would humble most skyscraper elevators. Some researchers discovered that trees actually emit low-frequency sounds as water moves through them. You can't hear it, but the forest might be full of whispers, roots gossiping about rain and sunshine. Scientists still argue whether this constitutes communication or mere coincidence. But deep down, you like the idea that these trees talk behind your back, probably debating your choice of footwear. A few rays of sunlight break through the clouds, cutting across the mist in golden streaks. The air glitters with moisture. On one shaft of light, a small hummingbird hovers, wings invisible. It's a blur of emerald and ruby, sipping nectar from an orchid that grows 50 feet off the ground. Its heart beats about 1/200 times a minute. That's faster than your favorite drum solo, and yet the creature looks serene-like time slows down for it. You take a breath and realize how oxygen-rich this air feels. The Amazon produces about 1/5 of the planet's oxygen, though not all of it reaches the rest of the world. It's mostly used right here by the forest itself. Still, every breath feels cleaner, fresher, a kind of invisible luxury. You catch sight of movement, a flash of orange high above. A troop of howler monkeys swings through the canopy, their tails curled around vines, their movements impossibly smooth. One stop stares at you with curious eyes, then tosses something small and hard your way. You pick it up, a Brazil nut still in its shell. Consider it a rainforest welcome gift. A branch creaks overhead. The wind shifts, carrying the faint, sharp scent of resin and flowers. You remember reading that plants release chemical signals through the air. Volatile organic compounds that warn neighbors of threats like insects or drought. Some call it plant chatter. It's a subtle form of social networking that doesn't require Wi-Fi, just patience. Far above the treetops, sway, and you feel tiny, but in a good way. This forest has been absorbing carbon dioxide since before humans learned to draw stick figures on cave walls. Each tree here can store tons of carbon during its life, locking it away safely. You wonder if the forest feels your exhale, a small contribution to its daily intake. Then something glints, small and strange, halfway up a trunk. You step closer. It's a colony of ants herding aphids like farmers tend cows, milking them for sweet nectar. You grin. Evolution really does have a sense of humor. The canopy darkens briefly as clouds reform overhead, the light flickering like someone dimmed the world's largest lamp. You spot a bromeliad filled with rainwater. A miniature pond 30 meters above ground. Tiny frogs live their entire lives inside it, never touching soil. Whole universes exist in the crooks of trees. Scientists once found microscopic creatures living inside these water pockets that had never been seen anywhere else on Earth. Nature apparently never stops inventing. You move slowly through the undergrowth, tracing the web of vines that dangle like jungle chandeliers. Some of them are lianas, woody climbers that use trees for support, winding toward the light. Others are strangler figs, which start life high above, sending roots down until they envelop their host entirely. It's a slow-motion takeover, the plant equivalent of corporate acquisition. Scientists still debate whether strangler figs benefit or harm biodiversity overall. But you suspect the trees don't enjoy the arrangement much. Every few steps, a burst of color breaks the green orchid's bromeliads, clusters of bright red heliconia flowers shaped like parrot beaks. Bees the size of grapes hover around them, heavy with pollen. The air hums faintly, an orchestra of wings. You pause to watch a line of leafcutter ants marching along a fallen branch, each carrying a piece of leaf many times its size. They move with such purpose that it's almost hypnotic. Each ant follows the chemical scent of the one ahead, forming a perfect living highway. Those leaves aren't food. They're compost for underground fungus gardens. These ants are farmers too, cultivating crops deep beneath the soil. A society within a society, quiet, relentless, organized. Somewhere, an economist is probably jealous. You tilt your face up once more, trying to imagine what it's like up there above the canopy, where eagles soar and the sun burns white against endless green. Some explorers say standing atop the treetops feels like walking across the surface of the sea. Waves of leaves stretch to the horizon, and the world smells of rain and sap. You exhale, and for a moment, you're weightless, part of this living sky, breathing in harmony with millions of unseen creatures. you realize the forest doesn't just exist, it performs. Each rustle, each hum, each burst of light is another line in its ancient song. And tonight, you get to listen. The day fades quietly, not with the sunset, but with a slow dimming like someone lowering the brightness on the world. The forest doesn't go dark all at once. It dissolves into twilight, layer by layer. You pause to listen because this is when the true orchestra begins. The symphony of the night tuning up. At first, there's just a faint hum. Then one by one, voices rise from the green gloom, crickets chirping in syncopated rhythm, frogs croaking from hidden pools, cicadas buzzing like electric wires, and something far off hooting through the fog. The air vibrates with sound, but not in a chaotic way. It's measured, balanced, a strange harmony that feels intentional. Scientists have actually studied this nightly music. The term they use is biophony, the collective sound produced by living organisms. Each species tends to occupy its own acoustic niche, meaning frogs, birds, and insects each sing at different frequencies, so their voices don't overlap. Nature's version of polite conversation. Though admittedly, some frogs still interrupt. You settle onto a fallen log. The surface is slick and cool, and tiny mushrooms glow faintly near your feet like forgotten stars. Fireflies drift in lazy arcs through the mist, leaving streaks of amber light behind them. Their flashes follow coded rhythms, messages of attraction and identification. Entire firefly languages exist here, though scientists still argue whether these patterns evolve purely for mating or if they serve other social functions, tiny Morse codes in the dark. A breeze stirs, carrying the smell of damp bark and wildflowers. You close your eyes and listen. In the distance, a howler monkey begins his night call again, a deep, echoing bellow that rolls through the forest like thunder. Another answers, and then another, until the night pulses with sound. It's oddly soothing, like waves on a stormy sea. Suddenly, a sharp screech cuts through the hum, a night bird, likely a potu. Its call sounds eerily human, a ghostly wah-oh that makes your skin prickle. But it's harmless, just a bird pretending to be a ghost owl for attention. Classic rainforest drama. Then come the frogs. Oh, the frogs. Dozens of species calling at once, high-pitched trills, rhythmic barks, even metallic clicks. Some are smaller than your fingernail, others big enough to cover your palm. There's one that sounds like a dripping faucet, another that mimics a squeaky hinge. You almost laugh. Somewhere a composer could be making millions sampling this. A moth brushes past your cheek, soft as breath. You look down and notice its wings shimmer under the faint moonlight, pale green, with speckles of silver. This is the Luna moth, though it shouldn't even be here. Technically, it belongs to another continent. But close cousins live in the Amazon, their wings patterned like fading leaves. Their entire adult life lasts about a week, just long enough to mate. Imagine existing solely for one romantic week. That's commitment or tragedy, depending on your perspective. As you sit quietly, something wet lands on your hand. You glance down, it's not rain. A tiny tree frog has decided you're the perfect resting spot. Its eyes are golden, its skin glossy. You barely breathe as it inflates its throat, croaking once, a small, perfect sound, and then leaps into the dark. The forest responds. Somewhere nearby, a chorus of insects crescendos, then fades, replaced by a deep buzzing. It's the sound of katydids, whose wings beat so fast they create mechanical drones. To your sleepy brain, it almost resembles white noise, a soothing hum that could easily replace a city fan. You shift slightly, and the log creaks under your weight. The ground below teems with motion. Ants are still working, dragging bits of leaf and wood toward hidden colonies. They never sleep. Biologists still debate whether ants can experience fatigue the way mammals do. The consensus: they rest, but only briefly, like little caffeine addicts running the planet's most efficient night shift. In the shadows, something larger stirs. You hold still. A pair of eyes glint, a soft reflection of moonlight. Then a rustle, a low growl that isn't quite menacing, but definitely present. A jaguar, maybe 20 meters away, slips silently between roots. You can't see much beyond its shape, but the grace is unmistakable. It moves like liquid shadow, unhurried, confident. Jaguars are the night royalty here, solitary, elusive, and completely indifferent to your awe. You exhale carefully. The big cat pauses, looks towards you for half a heartbeat, then vanishes again. You're left with a faint smell of musk and rain. Scientists call them apex predators, but in this moment, ghost feels more accurate. They leave no trace except in your pulse. The night grows thicker, warmer. Mist clings to your arms, wrapping you like a blanket. You can almost feel the ecosystem breathing around you, millions of tiny lungs working in synchrony. The trees above continue their quiet exchange of gases, their stomata opening to release oxygen and take in carbon dioxide. Photosynthesis may pause after sunset, but respiration never does. Even the plants are breathing beside you, their slow exhale adding to the nocturnal rhythm. You glance upward. The canopy glows faintly under scattered starlight, as if the forest borrowed a little shine from the Milky Way. In places where the branches thin, you catch glimpses of the real stars, bright, steady, eternal. But even they look jealous of the fireflies below, darting through the air like living comets. You remember something a researcher once said: "The Amazon at night is louder than most cities at rush hour." It's true, but here the noise doesn't grate. It soothes. There's no static, no chaos. Every sound belongs. Even silence has texture. A sudden splash echoes through the darkness, probably a caiman sliding into a pond. You smile faintly. Nothing like the soft reminder that you're not quite at the top of the food chain to keep things interesting. Still, you feel safe. Not because danger isn't real, but because the forest feels too vast, too old to bother with you. You're just another heartbeat in its endless night. The chorus swells once more, 1,000 creatures joining in perfect dissonance. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. The frogs, the crickets, the sighing trees, even the ghostly whisper of wings. It's a lullaby that predates humanity, still sung every night to anyone willing to listen. And tonight it's just for you. The forest around you glimmers faintly now, like it's exhaling stars. Darkness no longer feels empty, it's alive with soft light. Fireflies blink in rhythmic pulses. Mushrooms glow blue-white along fallen logs. Even the river ahead reflects strange, slow flashes. Welcome to the rainforest's secret nightlife. The glow in the dark kingdom. You take a step and the ground sparkles tiny flecks of green light where your feet disturb the soil. It looks magical, but the explanation is deliciously nerdy. Certain fungi here produce light through bioluminescence, a reaction between oxygen and an enzyme called luciferase. It's chemistry disguised as art. Scientists think these glowing fungi use light to attract insects, which then spread their spores. You have to admire the marketing. Not far away, a fallen trunk glows so bright, you could almost read by it. Locals call it foxfire forest fire that never burns. For centuries, explorers mistook it for witchcraft or ghosts. One early naturalist even tried bottling it as a natural lantern, only to discover the light fades once the fungus dies. Bioluminescence, it turns out, doesn't like being commercialized. You crouch and touch the glowing bark gently. It's faintly warm, slick with dew. The glow feels alive, like the pulse of the earth itself. You remember that over 80 species of fungi in the Amazon can emit light, each with slightly different hues, green, blues, sometimes even orange. And scientists still argue whether the color variety evolved for communication, camouflage, or pure accident. Either way, you can't look away. Further ahead, the river hums softly. The surface ripples with movement, and soon you see why thousands of tiny fish darting near the surface, each leaving faint streaks of light behind. Some Amazonian waters host bioluminescent plankton, microscopic creatures that flash when disturbed. Every splash becomes a brief firework. You kneel beside the water and drag your fingers through. Blue sparks follow your hand, swirling like galaxies. The sight is hypnotic. For a moment, you forget everything except the glow, the hum, and your own reflection, half shadow, half starlight. Above, fireflies weave patterns between vines. Each species flashes with its own rhythm, some fast, some slow, some in coordinated waves that make the forest look like it's breathing light. Males flash from the air. Females respond from the leaves. It's a dance that's been happening for millions of years, older than written language, perfectly synchronized and totally romantic. You chuckle softly. Nature really was the first dating app. A faint rustle draws your eyes to a tree trunk. Tiny orbs of light crawl upward. It's a group of click beetles. When threatened, they snap their bodies to produce both sound and light, a combo that confuses predators. You could call it panic artistry. Some glow continuously through the night, bright enough to read by if you're desperate. Scientists have yet to fully explain why certain species glow while close relatives do not. Some say it's for protection, others think it's evolutionary, leftover like your appendix, but prettier. You imagine ancient beetles learning to shine just to mess with the frogs trying to eat them. The forest hums louder now, but it's not sound, it's color. Bioluminescence has a strange way of painting silence. The glow doesn't flicker like flame. It breathes slowly, as though it has lungs. You start to wonder whether light itself can feel tired. You remember a quirky study from a few years ago. Researchers discovered glowing millipedes in the Andes foothills that emit light visible for up to 20 minutes after death. They called it the corpse lamp phenomenon. Macabre, yes, but oddly poetic life, insisting on one last shimmer. You laugh softly into the darkness. Even in decay, the forest refuses to go dark. The river shifts beside you, and something larger moves under the surface, a long shape gliding silently. For a heartbeat, you think anaconda. But then it surfaces, and you catch the faint pink shimmer of skin. It's a bodo, the Amazon River dolphin. Its color comes from capillaries near the skin, giving it that blushing glow under moonlight. Locals tell stories about these dolphins, how they transform into handsome men at night to seduce women on the riverbanks. Scientists haven't confirmed that, though they do agree the species is highly intelligent and curious. You watch it rise once more, exhale through its blowhole, and vanish in a swirl of glowing plankton. The myth almost feels real. A little further downstream, the water glows brighter. You spot smaller fish flashing in quick bursts, pygmy hatchetfish using bioluminescence, from special organs in their bellies. They control the light to blend with the water's shimmer, a trick called counter-illumination. It hides them from predators lurking below. Essentially, it's the world's first active camouflage. Humans still haven't perfected it, and here's a 2-inch fish doing it effortlessly. You can't help but smile. Everything here glows for a reason: attraction, defense, communication, or sheer coincidence. Even decay has its shine. It's a reminder that darkness isn't empty. It's just full of light you can't always see. Overhead, the fireflies shift into new patterns. For a second, they resemble constellations, Orion maybe, or something older. You think of sailors using stars to find their way and realize the forest is doing the same. Navigating through glow, not gravity. You sit back and close your eyes. The sounds of frogs and flowing water blend with the soft pulse of living light. Somewhere deep inside the earth, enzymes keep sparking. The glow of decay feeds the growth of new life. The rhythm is ancient, steady, comforting. When you open your eyes again, the forest feels almost unreal, suspended between dream and memory. The glowing river, the whispering leaves, the slow dance of fireflies. It's all part of one long exhale. You breathe with it, slower, deeper. And as you do, a faint smile lingers, the kind that only happens when science feels indistinguishable from magic. The forest quiets again, but not completely. You notice it in the pauses, the subtle spaces between sounds, where you can hear your own breath mingle with the rhythm of the trees. The glow fades as dawn thinks about returning, but before it does, you wander into a clearing where giants live. They call them ceibas and kapoks, the breathing giants of the Amazon. You've seen tall trees before, sure, but nothing like this. Their trunks rise like the columns of an alien cathedral, their roots sprawling outward in walls of wood taller than your head. Some roots are so wide, you could walk a narrow path along them, balancing like a tightrope walker between centuries. The air around them feels charged, as if these trees command gravity itself. Their bark is pale gray, scarred with moss, and every crease tells a story, 1,000 years of wind, fire, drought, and rain carved into one living monument. You touch one gently. The bark is cool, slightly damp, and you swear you feel it move under your palm. A slow, pulsing flow deep inside. Sap, life, memory. If you could listen closely enough, you might even hear it breathe. Scientists once believed these colossal trees were solitary titans. But more recent research revealed something gentler. They're deeply connected, their roots and fungal networks, linking them with others for kilometers. Nutrients, water, even chemical messages pass between them. When one tree suffers, say from insects or drought, others nearby can send support through the soil. It's the forest's circulatory system, a living web where generosity is built into the code. Biologists still argue whether this cooperation is conscious or just chemistry following pattern. But the effect is undeniable. Life sustains life here quietly, continuously. You step beneath one ceiba's massive crown where the world shifts color. Light filters down like liquid gold through the leaves, and tiny motes of dust and pollen drift in slow motion. The air tastes faintly sweet, tinged with the earthy scent of old rain. A pair of parrots streak past flashes of green and red, squabbling in mid-air about something that probably isn't important. The ceiba has long been considered sacred by indigenous peoples of the Amazon. In their cosmologies, it stands at the center of the universe, connecting the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. Its roots reach the realm of spirits, Its branches hold the souls of ancestors. The idea is beautiful, that even eternity needs good architecture. You walk slowly around its base, craning upward until your neck aches. Somewhere far above, bromeliads cling to branches like parasitic chandeliers storing rainwater in their cups. Small frogs live their entire lives inside those natural pools. The tree shelters whole civilizations within its arms. A squirrel monkey scrambles down one vine, pauses to look at you, then disappears again in a blur of fur and chatter. It's hard not to feel small here. But instead of insignificance, it feels right. Like you found your proper scale against something ancient enough to forgive your clumsiness. You remember reading that kapok trees can release more than 400,000 seeds at once. Each is attached to fine silky fibers that catch the wind, spreading new life far beyond the parent's shadow. The same fibers once stuffed life jackets and pillows, soft remnants of titans helping humans float. Funny how comfort often begins in wildness. Beneath the roots, a trickle of water forms a stream. You crouch, running a hand through it. The water is clear and cold, fed by rainfall that may have started its journey weeks ago. Everything here loops the trees, the rain, the life cycles. Even decay is just another kind of growth. The air vibrates with a low hum. You look up to see a swarm of bees moving lazily through a shaft of light, thousands of golden bodies forming a drifting cloud. They're stingless bees, common in the Amazon, busily pollinating the flowers high above. Their honey is prized by locals, said to be medicine for both heart and spirit. Scientists have found antimicrobial properties in it, but they still debate whether that's myth or measurable truth. Either way, it tastes like sunlight. You stand still, letting one land briefly on your hand. It's so light you barely feel it. For a moment, you and the bees share an understanding, both travelers here, just trying not to disturb the miracle of balance. The deeper you breathe, the more the forest seems to inhale with you. The sound of wind through the leaves shifts into something that feels deliberate-like. The exhale of a planet. These trees have been sequestering carbon for millennia, their slow work stabilizing the world's climate. Scientists estimate that tropical forests absorb around 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide each year. And yet deforestation threatens to reverse that, turning lungs into scars. You look around at these giants again. They seem indestructible, but they're vulnerable, especially to chainsaws and fire. You can't imagine that sound here, not amid this peace. It feels almost rude to even think it. A drop of water lands on your forehead, then another. The trees have started their daily ritual again, condensing moisture into tiny droplets that fall like gentle rain. Their own internal weather system. You laugh softly. The forest gives again and again. Somewhere nearby, a toucan calls, a clunky comical croak that breaks the spell just enough to make you grin. Those oversized beaks, bright as fruit candy, aren't just for show. Scientists found they help regulate body temperature, acting like natural air conditioners. The bird's version of turning on the AC in summer. Evolution really is a designer. You lean back against the ceiba trunk one last time, feeling its solidity against your spine. The rain has stopped again, but you don't notice at first. The rhythm of droplets feels too natural, like the pulse beneath your skin. And as you close your eyes, you realize something simple yet profound. This forest isn't just breathing for the planet, it's teaching you how to breathe again, slowly, deeply, patiently. The sound comes before the sight, soft, rhythmic like fabric brushing glass. You follow it through the ferns until the forest opens into silver. The river stretches ahead, wide and calm, reflecting every drifting cloud. At this hour, it looks less like water and more like liquid mirror, a river of glass. You kneel on the bank, watching thin ripples spread outward as a leaf lands on the surface. The movement barely disturbs the reflection. The Amazon River is that still when it wants to be. But don't let the calm fool you. Beneath that polished skin lives an entire civilization, ancient, complex, and not always friendly. Scientists say the Amazon holds about 1/5 of the world's fresh water. It's so vast that some sections are more than 10 kilometers wide, wider than many seas. And its tributaries, over 1,000 of them, snake through the jungle like veins through a living body. If the forest is the planet's lungs, then these rivers are its bloodstream. You step closer, feeling the mud give under your boots. The air smells clean and metallic, like wet stone and green leaves. In the distance, something exhales, a sharp pft sound, and you turn just in time to see a ripple where the surface breaks. The pink dolphin again, its body glowing faintly in the dim morning light. You grin. The Bodo seems to follow you, surfacing once, twice, as if to check you're paying attention. Its round forehead and faint smile make it look permanently amused. Scientists still debate whether dolphins here are playful by instinct or simply testing you for curiosity points. Either way, this one clearly enjoys the drama. A few feet away, the river shifts again, this time darker. A flash of silver scales, then gone. Maybe an arapaima, one of the largest freshwater fish on Earth. Some grow over 3 meters long, covered in armored scales that can deflect piranha bites. Locals say their splash can knock over canoes. Scientists say they breathe air thanks to modified swim bladders. You say internally, cool, but I'm not swimming today. You step onto a mossy log half submerged in the water. It rocks gently, sending slow ripples across the mirror's surface. The reflections distort the trees, the clouds, you all melting into each other. Everything becomes one fluid shape. You blink, realizing that's exactly what the river does. It blurs boundaries. Land and sky, predator and prey, even life and decay. All mixed, all flowing. The sunlight strengthens, turning the water golden. Tiny insects skim across, using surface tension like a tightrope. Their legs barely dent the water. You remember from some half-forgotten science documentary that they're called water striders, and their feet are covered in microscopic hairs that trap air, letting them skate forever without sinking. Somewhere a physicist is jealous of that surface engineering. Further downstream, you see movement circles forming, widening. A school of piranhas feeding on a floating fruit. Yes, fruit. Turns out, despite the Hollywood reputation, piranhas are mostly peaceful omnivores nibbling on seeds and plants more often than flesh. Scientists still argue about whether their occasional carnivorous frenzies are natural or triggered by scarcity. Either way, they look busy, and you're perfectly happy to admire from a distance. A splash draws your attention to the opposite bank, where a capybara, a creature that looks like a mix between a guinea pig and a beanbag chair, wades lazily into the shallows. Its fur glistens in the sun, water dripping from whiskers. Two smaller capybaras follow, paddling quietly beside their parent. They look like they're late for a meeting, but too relaxed to care. You smile again. The capybara is the world's largest rodent, and in the Amazon, it's basically a celebrity. Monkeys groom it. Birds perch on it, Crocodiles occasionally test it, but nothing seems to bother it for long. Scientists think its chill demeanor comes from its herd lifestyle and semi-aquatic nature. It literally cools down both physically and emotionally by sitting in rivers all day. There's a life lesson in there somewhere. You walk along the edge, the mud soft underfoot, and notice the banks are alive with movement. Tiny crabs wave claws like flags. Kingfishers dart from branches, emerge with fish that shimmer silver blue in the air. Every sound is amplified, the flap of wings, the splash of tails, even the faint patter of falling water droplets from distant leaves. A large shadow glides beneath the surface, and you hold your breath. The shape is broad, slow, deliberate. Then with a gentle roll, the head surfaces flat, armored, prehistoric. It's a black caiman, one of the Amazon's apex predators. Its eyes are gold in the light, unblinking, patient. You stare back knowing full well who would win if this turned into a staring contest. Luckily, it doesn't seem hungry, just curious. Scientists believe black caimans can grow over 6 meters long, though most stay smaller. They play a crucial ecological role keeping populations of fish and capybaras in balance. Still standing this close, balance feels like a fragile concept. You take a quiet step back. The caiman slides away, leaving barely a ripple. Silence returns. A heron lands nearby, long-legged and elegant, dipping its beak into the shallows. The whole scene feels choreographed, like nature rehearsed it for your arrival. You find a rock and sit down. The river murmurs softly, an endless monologue in liquid language. You wonder how many lives have passed through this water. Countless. Indigenous traders, explorers, modern researchers, all drifting down the same veins, carried by the same current. You recall that the Amazon River once flowed in the opposite direction millions of years ago before the Andes Mountains rose and forced it to reverse. Imagine that, an entire river changing its mind. You trail your fingers through the water. It's surprisingly warm. Somewhere below, electric eels send faint pulses through the murk, hunting by electricity. They can generate shocks strong enough to knock a horse unconscious, but they rarely attack humans. Scientists still debate how they coordinate those discharges so precisely without frying themselves. You're content not to test that theory firsthand. Above, the sun peeks through the clouds, scattering light into a million reflections. The river gleams brighter now, shimmering like molten glass. You exhale, and for a second it feels like the entire Amazon breathes with you. Trees exhaling oxygen, rivers inhaling clouds, life-trading energy in perfect rhythm. You lean back on your hands, close your eyes, and listen. The current murmurs, distant frogs sing, the dolphins surface again somewhere unseen. Everything moves, everything flows, but nothing rushes. The forest, it seems, has mastered the art of timelessness. And as the warm air brushes your face, you understand something simple but absolute. Even glass can move, and even silence can sing. Mist gathers over the river, like a silk scarf curling and folding in on itself. You step into it, and the world becomes a watercolor, soft edges, muted colors, sound fading into distant echoes. The forest around you seems to hover between sleep and waking. Then something miraculous happens above. Clouds begin to bloom. They rise straight out of the canopy like the forest itself is exhaling. Wisps of vapor swirl upward from treetops, thickening into columns that drift and merge until they form the great shifting ceiling of the Amazon. You've heard the phrase, the rainforest makes its own weather. Now you're watching it happen. Each leaf, each branch releases moisture through transpiration. Together, billions of plants send so much vapor skyward that they actually create clouds. Scientists call these the flying rivers of the Amazon. Every day, this invisible highway of moisture carries an estimated 20 billion tons of water into the atmosphere, more than the Amazon River itself transports to the sea. You tilt your head back and watch the vapor twist like smoke sunlight turning it silver. The forest is literally building its own sky, drop by drop. As the morning warms, those clouds gather density. A light wind pushes them across the horizon where they drift toward the Andes. Some will fall as rain over mountains. Some will travel thousands of kilometers, feeding crops and cities that have never seen this jungle. A single breath of humidity here can turn into rain in Argentina days later. You smile at the thought. You've just witnessed the beginning of a continental weather forecast. Scientists still argue whether this atmospheric engine could collapse if too much of the forest disappears. Without enough trees to keep the system humid, the cycle might break less rain. More heat, fewer clouds, a feedback loop of thirst. It's an unsettling thought, so you let it drift away with a mist. For now, the clouds keep rising. A breeze stirs the air around you, carrying a damp, earthy sweetness. You feel tiny droplets cling to your eyelashes. The whole forest seems to shimmer in soft focus colors, melting into one another, green into gold blue, into white. The birds have noticed too. A flock of scarlet macaws bursts from the canopy, streaking through the vapor like flying embers. Their cries echo sharply, cutting through the muffled quiet. Moments later, a smaller group of parakeets follows, chattering like commuters on their way to the sky. You realize something delightful. You're standing inside the cloud factory of the planet. The Amazon produces about half of its own rainfall through these atmospheric rivers. It's a self-sustaining system, elegant and precise. Like a massive living machine built entirely from sunlight and leaves. Then you notice a strange phenomenon. A thin spiral of mist twists upward, breaking from the main cloud. It spins lazily like a slow-motion tornado of vapor. You can see the way sunlight refracts through it, forming faint rainbows that shimmer, vanish, then return again. You whisper, "Okay. That's unfairly pretty." From deep within the forest, thunder grumbles, a reminder that this beauty can turn fierce in minutes. The air carries the metallic tang of ozone. Somewhere above, water droplets are colliding, merging, charging the air with static. The Amazon has just written its next chapter in Weather the Afternoon Storm. Scientists have discovered that lightning here can actually help fertilize the soil. When bolts strike, they break apart nitrogen molecules in the air, allowing rain to carry the nutrient into the ground. The forest feeds itself with its own thunder. That's not just poetic, it's chemistry with flair. The first raindrops arrive quietly. They don't fall, they form around you. The cloud thickens and mist becomes drizzle. Drizzle becomes rain. You don't bother to move. You're already soaked, and somehow that feels like part of the plan. For a moment, the world smells brand new. Petrichor, the perfume of wet soil, rises in waves. It's one of nature's oldest scents, a chemical called geosmin, produced by microbes in the dirt. Humans are absurdly sensitive to it, able to detect just a few parts per trillion. That's evolution reminding you where you came from. The rain increases, drumming softly on leaves. You look up through the falling water, and for a moment you can't tell whether the forest is crying, laughing, or both. Every drop seems to carry purpose, each one part of the grand atmospheric dance between earth and sky. Nearby, a blue morpho butterfly flutters by, wings shimmering like metallic mirrors. Rain doesn't bother it. The scales on its wings repel water effortlessly. Scientists study that hydrophobic texture to design waterproof coatings and self-cleaning surfaces. The butterfly flaps once, twice, and disappears into the mist, a perfect little engineer in disguise. The forest begins to brighten again. Light pierces through the thinning clouds, scattering tiny rainbows across the clearing. You tilt your hand, and for a fleeting second, see every color of the spectrum resting on your skin. The humidity softens your thoughts. You feel slower, calmer, as if even your mind is exhaling vapor now. The clouds drift higher, their undersides glowing peach and lavender. They'll continue their journey west over mountains, oceans, and cities. By the time they fall again, their origin will be forgotten. But you'll know you were here at the beginning of that rainfall's life. You smile, letting the last drops fall from your hair. Somewhere far above the clouds, keep growing, whispering in a language of vapor and light. And in that whisper, you hear it again. The Amazon isn't just alive, it's thinking in weather. The rain subsides into a fine mist, and the forest feels reborn, cleaner, brighter, humming softly. Droplets hang on every leaf like glass beads, and shafts of light cut through them, turning the air into a million tiny prisms. You walk through this slow-motion glow, breathing in the cool, earthy scent. And ahead you spot something different, a thicket of vines and shrubs, tangled yet deliberate almost. Curated. You push past the leaves, and the scene opens into a natural apothecary. Here the jungle shows off its hidden genius, the medicine cabinet of the earth. Everywhere you look, there's something potent, something purposeful. That vine with heart-shaped leaves, its Chondrodendron tomentosum, the source of curare, the infamous arrow poison used by indigenous hunters. At the right dose, it paralyzes. At a smaller one, it saves lives as a muscle relaxant during surgery. The forest doesn't judge how you use it, it just provides. A few steps further, a patch of small waxy plants grows beneath a tree. Their roots contain compounds that inspired quinine, one of humanity's first treatments for malaria. A little further along the bark of a towering cinchona tree, flakes in reddish strips, bitter to the taste, but rich with healing history. Entire empires once fought over its secret. You crouch down and crush a leaf between your fingers. The smell is sharp, medicinal, like eucalyptus and mint blended together. Somewhere, a sloth probably uses that same plant as deodorant, slow but fragrant. Scientists estimate that more than a quarter of modern pharmaceuticals trace their origins to tropical plants, and the Amazon remains the biggest, least explored pharmacy on the planet. Yet only about 1% of its species have been studied for medicinal use. 99% remain untested, holding cures we haven't even imagined yet. Cancer treatments, antibiotics, maybe even something for that back pain you keep ignoring. You stop beside a tree covered in bulbous green pods, the garin plant. Its seeds contain natural caffeine, and locals have brewed them into energy drinks long before modern marketing got involved. The pods split open to reveal seeds that look eerily like tiny eyes. Nature, it seems, has a flair for presentation. A soft rustle draws your attention to the side. A local frog, bright orange with black spots, hops lazily across the leaves. Its skin glistens even without the rain, coated in toxins, potent enough to kill 10 grown humans. Scientists study compounds like these to develop painkillers stronger than morphine minus the addictive side effects. A deadly gift if handled wisely. You glance up. Sunlight pours through gaps in the canopy, illuminating clusters of orchids clinging to branches. They look fragile, but many species here produce chemicals that repel insects and fungi. It's their version of bug spray, organic, non-toxic, and better smelling than anything you could buy at a pharmacy. You think about how every leaf, every bark, every drop of sap hides potential. A single plant might contain hundreds of unique chemical compounds, each one evolved for survival protection, from pests, sunlight, or infection. And somehow human medicine keeps stumbling across them by accident, centuries after indigenous healers already knew their secrets. It makes you pause. The real laboratories here don't have walls or microscopes, just patience and intuition passed down through generations. The shamans and herbalists of Amazonian tribes have cataloged thousands of plant remedies purely through observation and ritual. Modern science is only now catching up, mapping their knowledge molecule by molecule. Scientists still argue over how to balance respect and research, how to study without stealing, to discover without erasing. You think that debate feels like the rainforest itself, dense, tangled, yet full of life, waiting to be understood. A breeze shifts through the clearing, carrying a smell both sweet and sharp. You follow it to a vine twined around a tree, the legendary ayahuasca. To some, it's a sacred bridge between worlds. To others, a potent hallucinogen best left to guided ceremonies. The vine contains DMT, a compound that can trigger intense visions. Combined with another plant that prevents the body from breaking it down, it creates an experience that scientists still struggle to explain. Some describe it as chemical therapy for the soul. Others as biology flirting with mysticism. You reach out, but don't touch. The air feels charged around it, like standing near a secret that doesn't want to be solved. Beyond the vine, the ground rises slightly, and a tree with red sap bleeds where its bark has been nicked. Locals call it sangre de drago, dragon's blood. The sap is used to treat wounds and stomach ulcers, and recent studies show it has antiviral properties too. It dries into a film that seals skin like a natural bandage. You imagine ancient healers discovering that by watching animals tend to their injuries. Observation turned into wisdom. You find yourself whispering, "This place could heal the world," and yet much of it remains threatened. Every year, swaths of rainforest disappear for logging, mining, agriculture, small cuts that bleed into something larger. Scientists warn that with every lost acre, we lose countless potential medicines. A pill that could have cured Alzheimer's, a compound that might have reversed blindness gone before discovery. The thought feels heavy, so you let your mind drift back to the moment. You're surrounded by life, inventing itself over and over again. Each drop of resin, each scent in the air, is proof of adaptation's brilliance. The forest doesn't just survive, it innovates. A butterfly lands on your arm wings, patterned in deep blue and amber, like painted glass. It stays there motionless, tasting the salt as your skin before fluttering away. A tiny, fleeting connection between human chemistry and nature's. You close your eyes, breathing the humid air that smells of soil and sap, and think, maybe the earth isn't running out of miracles. We just need to slow down long enough to notice them. The forest hums differently now, less mystical, more mischievous. Somewhere overhead, something cracks, then thuds softly into the dirt. You look down and see a half-eaten fruit the size of a baseball. No warning, no apology, just gravity and bad manners. Welcome to the jungle's morning comedy show, hosted by the tricksters and titans of the Amazon. A rustle to your left. You turn and there, hanging upside down like a furry hammock with a face, is a sloth. Its eyes blink slowly, each blink a full conversation about patience. Its fur is greenish, coated in algae that doubles as camouflage and air conditioning. A moth crawls lazily across its back. They actually live there full-time, forming tiny ecosystems in sloth fur. If reincarnation exists, that moth won the lottery. Scientists still argue why sloths move so slowly. Some say it's to conserve energy. Others think it's to avoid detection by predators that hunt by motion. You meanwhile suspect it's because they've discovered the ultimate life philosophy: if you never hurry, nothing ever truly ends. The sloth yawns, an impressive, silent event, then continues its half-hour journey to move one arm. You can't help but grin. There's a peace in its pace, a wisdom in its laziness. Maybe the rainforest needs a reminder that rest is also part of survival. You move on, following the faint chatter of birds, until the trail opens into chaos ants. Thousands of them. Leaf-cutter ants march in perfect formation, each carrying a bright green slice overhead, like a tiny flag. You crouch to watch, hypnotized. The path they've carved glistens like polished dirt. These insects have been farming fungi underground for more than 50 million years. Humans, by comparison, have barely figured out how to water houseplants. Their organization is flawless. Scouts, workers, soldiers, each knows its task. The leaves they carry aren't food, they're fertilizer. Deep below, the ants chew the leaves into pulp, mix it with their saliva, and feed it to a fungus that serves as their sole diet. A mutualistic relationship so efficient that scientists model logistics systems after them. Amazon's other prime network. A soldier ant pauses near your boot, its mandibles gleaming in the light. It seems to consider you, then turns away, unimpressed. You've been evaluated and deemed irrelevant. Congratulations. You continue walking until the canopy breaks again. Suddenly, the air changes, warmer, heavier. You hear rustling, then a low growl that vibrates in your ribs. You freeze. Out of the shadowed underbrush, a shape emerges, sleek, muscular, golden-eyed, the jaguar. It moves with liquid precision, its muscles rolling under patterned fur like waves under sunlight. You can feel the power in each step, grace, without effort, danger, without malice. It stops, tilts its head, and studies you. Not hungry, just curious. You don't move. Scientists still debate whether jaguars are solitary by necessity or preference. Unlike lions or wolves, they live and hunt alone. Their jaws are so strong they can crush turtle shells, and yet their step is silent enough to sneak past you at arm's length. You're watching pure confidence in motion. After a long moment, the cat blinks, yawns, and melts back into the trees. No drama, no chase. Just gone. The jungle exhales again. You realize how different survival looks here. It's not loud or desperate. It's efficient, graceful. Everything knows its place. The hunter, the hunted, the bystander, holding his breath and pretending not to squeak. The trees rustle again, and a capuchin monkey darts out, grabs a hanging fruit, and scampers up a branch. Moments later, two more follow, one carrying what appears to be someone's sunglasses. You laugh softly. Mischief is alive and well. Monkeys are notorious thieves here, especially the smarter species. Researchers testing problem-solving once watched a capuchin steal both the test equipment and the lunch that came with it. A shower of fruit peels rains down as the troop argues overhead. Their calls echo sharp clicks, chirps, and barks. Scientists once tried to decode monkey communication and found it surprisingly structured. Some alarm calls are specific, one for snakes, one for jaguars, one for nosy humans. You hope you're not triggering any of them. As you move deeper, you catch sight of something, almost glowing lines of green and black, cutting through the leaves. Poison dart frogs hopping daintily across the moss. Their colors are warnings, but also declarations. I'm dangerous, don't touch, but admire me anyway. You oblige. Nearby, a troop of leaf monkeys swings through the canopy, their tails long as whips, their movement almost choreographed. The rhythm of the forest shifts with them. Branches creaking, leaves falling, distant birds complaining about stolen perches. It's chaotic, but somehow still coordinated. And then the air fills with sound, thousands of tiny wings. Leafcutter ants again this time, airborne during their rare mating flight. You stand in awe as they rise like confetti, a living celebration of reproduction and chaos. Within hours, most will die. But a few queens will find new soil, start new colonies, and repeat the cycle. Life and death here happen simultaneously in perfect unison. You pause near a clearing where the ground is littered with half-eaten fruit. The smell is sweet and slightly fermented. Fruit bats wheel overhead, squeaking softly. They're crucial pollinators, tiny flying gardeners, who keep the rainforest blooming. One swoops close enough that you feel the brush of air from its wings. It smells faintly of mango. As the last light of day filters through the canopy, you realize this entire ecosystem runs on balance, between energy and rest, cunning and patience. The sloth and the jaguar, the thief monkey and the farmer ant, they're all pieces of the same puzzle. The forest doesn't pick favorites. Every creature, from the smallest beetle to the largest cat, plays its part. Even laziness becomes strategy. Even aggression finds grace. You find a fallen trunk to rest against. A faint hum fills the air again, and the background music of life. Somewhere, the sloth you met earlier probably just finished scratching its nose. You smile at the thought. The Amazon, you think, is proof that evolution doesn't just reward the fittest, it rewards the creative, the patient, and sometimes the spectacularly weird. You close your eyes as night begins to reclaim the forest. And for the first time, you understand the jungle isn't chaos. It's 1,000 clever negotiations happening at once, all perfectly timed, all gloriously alive. Morning returns to the forest like a secret being revealed slowly. Mist slides off leaves, water drips from branches, and light spills through gaps in the canopy, golden and shy. You stretch, feeling your muscles loosen in the thick, fragrant air. Somewhere ahead, a faint, drumbeat woodpecker maybe echoes through the valley. The Amazon wakes up. But this part of the morning feels different. Not everything here belongs to science. Some things belong to memory, to imagination, to the people who have called this place home for thousands of years. Welcome to the myths in the mist. The Amazon is full of legend stories, as tangled and sprawling as its roots. You walk carefully, each step stirring whispers older than language. The first tale you hear is carried on the wind itself, the story of Yara, the river mother. Locals say she was once a beautiful woman who lured fishermen with her voice, dragging them beneath the surface. They say when you hear laughter echoing across still water, you should never answer. Scientists call it echo refraction. You call it unsettlingly plausible. The air shifts again, and you notice carvings etched into the bark of a fallen log, spiral patterns faded by rain. You run your fingers across them. Maybe messages from a tribe that passed through centuries ago. Maybe warnings. In this forest, time doesn't travel in straight lines. It loops like the vines. Anthropologists have recorded hundreds of distinct myths across Amazonian cultures, each tied to the land, the water, or the sky. The stories aren't superstition. They're maps, moral, ecological, spiritual. They teach how to live with the jungle, not against it. And somehow every myth feels plausible when you're standing here where reality already bends at the edges. You move closer to a slow-moving stream, its surface perfectly still. Then, without warning, something breaks it, a faint ripple, a flash of silver. You freeze, remembering the next tale, the encantado, the shape-shifting dolphin. Locals insist the pink river dolphins can become human at night, wandering villages disguised as handsome strangers. They play flutes, seduce women, and return to the river by dawn. You look at the water again, half expecting a wink. Scientists have, of course, never confirmed this particular talent, but they do acknowledge that dolphins are highly social and unusually curious toward humans. Some tribes treat them as river spirits, refusing to harm or eat them. You can't help but admire that rule. As you walk, a gust of wind carries faint music, not from speakers or instruments, but from bamboo reeds catching the breeze. For a moment, it sounds like voices. The forest hums with these small illusions, rustling leaves that sound like whispers, shadows that resemble figures. You begin to understand why people here see the divine everywhere. The next legend comes from deep in the canopy, the Curupira, the protector of the forest. He's said to have bright red hair and feet that face backward, confusing hunters who try to track him. Mischievous, yes, but also a guardian. Hunters who take more than they need might find themselves lost, circling endlessly. You grin. Every ecosystem deserves a chaotic good enforcer. Anthropologists note that the Curupira myth may have been one of the first environmental protection laws, oral enforcement, by fear of magical retribution. Scientists still argue how myth and conservation intertwine, but you think maybe fear of getting turned around by a red-haired forest sprite isn't the worst deterrent. Another whisper through the trees brings a colder story, the Mapinguari, a massive creature with one eye, long claws, and the smell of death. Some say it's an ancient ground sloth species that never went extinct. Others say it's the forest's way of warning people away from danger. When explorers describe roars echoing through the night, scientists shrug. Could be jaguars, could be myths, could be marketing for cryptozoology podcasts. Still, the ground does rumble sometimes, doesn't it? You feel a low vibration beneath your boots. Probably a distant thunderclap. Probably. You pause beside a massive tree trunk, noticing charms tied to it, woven straw figures, bits of colored thread feathers. Offerings. Someone's prayers caught midair. The people of the forest leave small gifts for the spirits that guard the river's trees and sky. Coins, food, even hair. Gifts of gratitude and caution. You reach up and tie a stray thread from your sleeve around a root, not as a believer, but as a guest paying rent. The canopy brightens again, and shafts of sunlight pierce the mist. Dust motes swirl like tiny spirits. You think of how myth and biology overlap here, both trying to explain why the world behaves the way it does. One uses data, the other poetry. Sometimes they meet in the middle right, where a rainbow touches the soil. You hear a high-pitched giggle from somewhere unseen. A bird, surely, but the timing is suspicious. You decide not to test your skepticism. Modern science keeps discovering things that make the old stories sound less like fantasy and more like field notes written in metaphor. For example, certain plants here emit ultrasonic clicks when stressed tiny cries for water or sunlight. Researchers only recently recorded them. Meanwhile, shamans have long spoken of hearing the plants sing. Coincidence? Or are we just catching up to what they already knew? You think of the ayahuasca vine from before, the visions it gives, the way it shows patterns between worlds. People describe seeing geometric forms that mimic the structure of plant cells. Maybe myth isn't escape, it's perception expanded. The sun breaks fully through the mist, now setting the forest aglow. The air hums, the leaves shimmer, and the myths dissolve into day. But you can still feel them hanging in the air like faint after-images reminders that science and story are just two ways of dreaming about the same truth. You breathe deeply, the air thick with both oxygen and mystery. Somewhere behind you, the forest giggles again, high, soft, impossible. You smile. Maybe the curupira is just making sure you don't take too many notes. You keep walking, and the ground beneath your feet softens, spongy, damp, alive. The air smells different here, darker somehow, earthy and electric. Something unseen whispers under the soil. Not myth this time, but the real pulse of the planet. You're standing above the underground internet of the Amazon. No cables, no routers, just roots. Trillions of them woven into a living web that stretches farther than any fiber optic network humanity has ever built. Every step you take lands on a message in transit. You crouch down and scrape away a little moss. Beneath it, thin white threads run through the soil mycelium. They look fragile, but don't let that fool you. These fungal filaments form the forest's communication grid. Through them, trees and plants exchange nutrients, water, and information. Scientists call it the wood wide web. You prefer the simpler truth. It's a conversation that never stops. When one tree gets too much sunlight, it can funnel sugars through the mycelium to feed those in the shade. When pests attack roots, release chemical warnings that prompt neighbors to boost their defenses. It's cooperation disguised as chemistry, community disguised as dirt. You touch the soil lightly. It's warm, humming with unseen life. In a single handful, there could be more microorganisms than humans on the entire planet. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, all working overtime to keep the forest's heartbeat steady. If you could shrink yourself down, you'd see highways of energy and trade barter systems of nitrogen and carbon. It's not chaos, it's infrastructure. Scientists still argue whether trees intentionally help each other or simply react to chemical cues. Are they altruists or just very efficient processors? Either way, the result feels conscious. And in the Amazon, intent might not even matter. Function is feeling here. A heavy root arches above the path, twisting like a frozen wave. You climb over it, feeling the vibration of something massive beneath. Ceibas, kapoks, and palms are all wired in. The system links species that otherwise compete: predator trees, feeding rival seedlings, vines, siphoning nutrients from strangers. It's like social media, except the gossip keeps the planet alive instead of ruining your day. You step into a hollow where the ground dips and see mushrooms glowing faintly, their caps slick and translucent. They're part of the same network-fruiting bodies of that vast underground intelligence. Some species even use insects as couriers, releasing spores that hitch rides on ants and beetles. The forest never stops sending messages. A toucan lands nearby, pecking at a cluster of fruit. As it eats, it drops seeds into the soil, another form of networking. Each seed carries the genetic data of survival, waiting for the right connection. You smile. Even digestion here is a kind of upload. The deeper you look, the more you realize that everything is exchanging something. Trees trade carbon with fungi. Fungi trade minerals with bacteria. Insects move messages from root to root. Even decay is a delivery. Dead leaves become language, rotting wood becomes signal. You remember reading that a square meter of rainforest soil can contain up to 10 kilometers of fungal threads. 10 kilometers in something you could hold in your hand. That's like finding the internet inside a teacup. Scientists only recently started mapping these networks using DNA sequencing, and they keep discovering new species faster than they can name them. Some estimates suggest that we've identified less than 10% of Amazon fungi. The rest remain nameless, whispering quietly underground. You pause beside a massive tree and press your palm to its root. The bark feels rough, but beneath it you can almost imagine movement, a pulse faint and rhythmic. Maybe it's your imagination, or maybe the tree is responding. Scientists found that plants can detect vibrations from nearby footsteps and even adjust growth direction. One experiment showed roots bending toward the sound of running water. You whisper softly, "You can hear me, can't you?" A breeze passes through, rustling the leaves in reply. Coincidence or conversation? You decide not to ask which. Farther along, you come across a fallen trunk carpeted in moss and small orange mushrooms. The smell of decomposition is strong, but not unpleasant, sweet, woody familiar. Fungi are the forest's recycling department, breaking down wood into nutrients the next generation can use. Without them, the Amazon would choke on its own abundance. And it's not just plants. Animals are wired into this system too. Termites aerate soil worms, transport microbes, and ants bury organic matter. Even birds contribute by dropping fruit pits miles from their source. Everything here is both consumer and contributor. You remember a quirky finding from a few years back. Researchers discovered that electric eels can briefly boost the chemical activity in surrounding soil when they release their discharges during floods. It's as if even the river adds a jolt of data to the forest's underground network. You laugh quietly. The Amazon might actually be powered by fish Wi-Fi. You keep walking, and the ground dips again, darker, damper. The smell deepens. This is the rainforest's underworld, where decay hums like an engine. Each fallen leaf breaks down into sugars, amino acids, and carbon, feeding the web that sustains everything above. You realize the forest's greatest strength isn't in its towering trees or glittering rivers. It's in this hidden, humbling foundation. Scientists still debate how fragile this underground network is. Some studies suggest that even small disruptions, deforestation, drought, pollution, can break its links irreversibly. Others argue it's more resilient than we think, capable of rerouting around damage like a biological internet. Either way, you find comfort in its quiet persistence. You crouch once more, scooping a handful of soil. It feels cool, moist, alive. You let it fall between your fingers, dark against the light. Somewhere in that handful, millions of tiny connections flicker in silence. The forest brain hidden in plain sight. When you stand again, you feel taller, not because you've grown, but because you've remembered that everything alive is connected in ways you can't see. The forest knows this. It's been sharing data long before humans invented words for it. You take one last deep breath, and as you exhale, it feels like sending a message back down through the roots. Message received. Connection stable. Dawn arrives like liquid gold spilled over the treetops. The mist thins, curling into delicate threads that rise and vanish. The forest is quieter than you expect. Not silent, but balanced, as if all the noise of the night has dissolved into a soft hum. A new rhythm begins. This is the rainforest at dawn, when the world holds its breath before the day truly begins. You feel it in your chest before you hear it, the pulse of something vast, patient, and alive. Sunlight breaks through the canopy, turning raindrops into tiny fireflies of light. The first calls begin, a solitary bird clear and rising, followed by another and another, until the forest becomes an orchestra again. High above a toucan stretches its absurdly large beak and lets out a croaking call that sounds like an old door hinge. Nearby, a troop of squirrel monkeys leaps between branches, their chatters sharp and playful. One stops long enough to look down at you, tail coiled like punctuation, then scampers off, unimpressed. You laugh under your breath. Jungle critics, you can smell everything now. Wet soil, ripe fruit, faint smoke from a lightning strike miles away. Each scent feels exaggerated, heightened, as if the forest wants to remind you that you are in fact breathing in its chemistry. The dawn chorus grows louder. Scientists have studied this synchronized singing and discovered that each species has its own schedule. Some birds, like the tinamous, start in darkness. Others, like parrots, wait until full light. They sing not only to mark territory, but also to sync with the forest's acoustic rhythm each call, finding its proper place in nature's symphony. It's a carefully composed cacophony, a living sheet of music. You step onto a path lined with bromeliads, still heavy with rainwater. Each one cradles a tiny microcosm: frogs, larvae, beetles, sometimes even small crabs. They're self-contained ponds balanced on leaves, entire ecosystems no bigger than a teacup. Scientists have found over 250 different species living only inside bromeliad pools. You wonder if any of them know how small their world is. A rustle from the undergrowth draws your attention. A tapir emerges, nose-twitching hooves sinking softly into mud. It looks like an animal borrowed from another era, part elephant, part pig, part prehistoric daydream. It sniffs the air, glances your way, then plods toward the river. Despite its size, it moves almost silently. Tapirs are gardeners of the forest, dispersing seeds through their wanderings. Wherever they go, new trees follow. You grin, nature's clumsy yet efficient landscaper. A butterfly flutters past wings, flashing electric blue. It's a morpho, perhaps the most photographed creature in the rainforest. Its color doesn't come from pigment, but from microscopic structures that bend light. When it closes its wings, it disappears into brown camouflage. When it opens them, the world turns metallic sky. Even camouflage here is dramatic. You pause by a fallen tree and kneel to inspect the sap oozing from its bark. It glows faintly amber in the light, sticky and fragrant. Ants gather around it, collecting droplets. The resin will eventually harden into amber, capturing tiny insects in eternal pause, a time capsule of the forest's daily life. Millions of years from now, someone might hold that piece of amber and wonder what this day sounded like. Somewhere above, a macaw screeches a long, drawn-out note that slices through the thick air. Its mate answers immediately. These birds form lifelong pairs, staying together even outside breeding season. They're the rainforest's romantic traditionalists. You can almost imagine them arguing lovingly over whose turn it is to find breakfast fruit. As you continue walking, sunlight shifts across the canopy, catching leaves in sudden bursts of brightness. A spider web glistens nearby, dotted with dew that looks like pearls. The spider waits at its center motionless, but aware of every vibration. Its patience feels like art. You remember reading that some spiders here weave new webs every night, consuming the old ones to recycle silk proteins. The forest wastes nothing. Even stillness has purpose. A bird swoops low, a harpy eagle, wings wide, talons enormous. It's rare to see one this close. The air seems to shiver around it. You freeze in awe. This is one of the largest eagles in the world, capable of lifting monkeys right out of the trees. Its face, framed by a ruff of gray feathers, looks oddly human, serious, almost judging. You whisper, "Good morning," just to be polite. The harpy glides upward again, vanishing into the canopy like smoke. Scientists call it a keystone predator, vital to balancing prey populations. Without it, the forest structure would shift dramatically. Even kings serve the system here. The forest brightens further, and the temperature rises. Insects begin to swarm, drawn to the warmth. Dragonflies dart through sunbeams, iridescent and restless. A cicada begins its call, a long mechanical buzz that feels endless. Its sound vibrates in your bones. You realize that even here, mornings are full of background noise. The difference is that none of it feels man-made. You stop at a wide clearing where beams of light pour down like stage spotlights. The air is warm, heavy, and full of potential. Sap drips from vines. Distant monkeys shout their territorial claims. The forest stretches, exhales, begins its day. Scientists have documented how rainforest plants actually grow faster at dawn. Light triggers a cascade of photosynthetic activity that surges through the leaves like caffeine through veins. You can almost hear it if you listen closely. The faint hiss of energy transforming sunlight into sugar. The planet's breakfast in progress. You close your eyes for a moment, letting it all sink in the heat, rising the hum of insects, the fragrance of wet bark and blooming orchids. A small lizard skitters across your boot and stops to bask in a patch of light. You both take a breath as if sharing the same morning. When you open your eyes again, the canopy glows bright emerald. Every leaf looks awake, every color newly minted. The Amazon doesn't start its day. It erupts into it. And you realize something both funny and profound. For all our technology, humanity still hasn't invented a better alarm clock than birdsong and sunlight. The morning swells into midday, and with it, the forest's heat thickens, soft, heavy pressing. Cicadas scream from every direction, a constant metallic buzz that feels like the sound of sunlight itself. You pull the air into your lungs. It's like drinking warm tea through a straw. The humidity clings to you like fabric. This is the Amazon at full volume, brilliant, alive, and trembling on the edge of chaos. And in that heat you start to sense it, the fragility. Beneath all the life and motion, there's a quiet tremor of imbalance. The fragile equilibrium that keeps this world breathing. A sudden gust stirs the canopy, scattering leaves and a few startled parrots. They rise, crying out before settling again. The forest adjusts, but it never relaxes. Somewhere far off, a tree falls. The sound rolls through the jungle like distant thunder. One tree down 1,000 creatures displaced, and the network of roots silently reconfigures itself. You remember what you learned earlier, how every fallen trunk becomes nursery food shelter. Even in collapse, the forest reorganizes, never wasting. But lately, those collapses aren't all natural. You can smell smoke in the distance, thin, faint, but present. The kind that doesn't come from lightning. It smells like carbon and regret. Scientists say that in certain years, the Amazon loses over 10,000 square kilometers of forest to fire, and logging an area roughly the size of Lebanon gone. You stare at the canopy, trying to imagine that kind of emptiness. The mind resists, and yet even the smallest gap changes everything. The soil dries faster, the humidity drops, the flying rivers slow. The Amazon creates its own weather. Remember, fewer trees mean fewer clouds. Fewer clouds mean less rain. Less rain means fewer trees. A loop unraveling. You walk along a ridge where the forest opens into a patch of sunlight and young saplings. Regeneration in progress. Tiny leaves unfurl like hopeful hands. Life trying again, as it always does. You crouch beside one, a seedling barely knee-high, and brush its stem gently. It quivers, but doesn't break. Scientists estimate that a mature Amazon tree can store up to 200 tons of carbon. This little sprout might one day hold that same burden if it survives long enough. You whisper, "Good luck, kid." Nearby, a patch of exposed earth steams gently in the heat. It's a burn scar where vegetation once stood. Charcoal flecks crunch under your boots. And yet, even here, green shoots are already pushing through the ash. The resilience feels stubborn, almost defiant. A group of leafcutter ants passes through the clearing, still working, still building. They march across burnt soil as if nothing has changed. The forest's smallest engineers don't mourn, they rebuild. Above, a harpy eagle circles lazily, its broad wings catching thermals. You imagine it scanning for prey, but also surveying the change below. To it, the landscape might look patchy, scarred. To the forest, it's a slow fever. You remember reading that scientists debate whether the Amazon is approaching a tipping point, a threshold where deforestation and warming could transform it from lush rainforest to dry savanna. Some models predict it could happen within decades. Others insist the system can still recover if humans act quickly. Everyone agrees the clock is ticking, even if they argue about what time it really is. A low rumble sounds again, not thunder this time, but a truck engine somewhere distant. The human world intruding faintly through the trees. You exhale, torn between awe and unease. Then, like a deliberate act of mercy, the forest sends you a distraction. A sudden burst of color blue morpho butterflies, dozens of them swirling in a sunbeam. They move together, like liquid light, flashing in and out of existence. The sight stops your thoughts, cold. You watch them drift upward, their wings reflecting every shade of sky. A few land briefly on a wet rock, sipping minerals from the surface. You wonder if they sense the imbalance too, or if they're just being themselves, existing for beauty's sake. Maybe the world needs that kind of simplicity to stay sane. You continue walking until you reach a section where the forest meets floodplain. Here the water has receded, leaving behind silver mud etched with animal prints. You trace them with your fingers. Tapir capybara, maybe a jaguar. Every track overlaps no one path perfect. Coexistence written in footprints. You hear movement behind you, two scarlet macaws swooping low, their wings slicing the humid air. They scream joyfully, obnoxiously, even before disappearing into the distance. You grin. The forest still laughs at itself. Scientists have found that despite centuries of upheaval, the Amazon still generates more oxygen than it consumes, still shelters 1 in 10 known species, still holds ancient genetic blueprints for the future of medicine. It's not hopeless. It's just fragile. You kneel again, pressing your hand into the mud. The surface is warm, pulsing faintly with hidden life worms, roots, microbes, all carrying on regardless of human dilemmas. The forest doesn't wait for permission to heal. It simply does, and yet you can't shake the awareness that its patience isn't infinite. Even the strongest systems break under enough weight. You stand and look around. Everywhere, life hums in shades of green. But beneath that beauty, you can sense the tension, the effort it takes to keep the balance. Every drop of water recycled, every seed carried, every ant still marching. The Amazon holds the planet's breath, one storm at a time. You exhale slowly, a tiny mimicry of the forest's rhythm. Maybe that's all you can do. Breathe with it, care for it, remember it. In the distance, thunder murmurs again, real this time. You smile. The clouds are returning the great self-sustaining pulse, still beating. And for now at least, equilibrium holds. The storm moves on, leaving the world rinsed and shining. Every leaf glistens, every surface smells new. You stand quietly, watching mist curl upward like breath after laughter. The forest feels timeless, and maybe it is. Here the past doesn't die. It just lingers, woven into the roots and rivers. Welcome to the echoes of time. You walk along a narrow ridge where the soil feels ancient, thick, black, and heavy with stories. Beneath your boots lie layers of sediment that have recorded everything this place has ever been: floods, fires, even the footsteps of civilizations that vanished before maps existed. The air hums with age. Scientists digging deep cores of Amazonian soil have found fossilized pollen dating back tens of thousands of years. Each grain is a memory of what once grew here: palms, ferns, wild orchids, plants that no longer exist. By reading these tiny fossils, researchers can reconstruct the rainforest's entire autobiography. You smile at the idea, the earth keeping a diary in dust. You pass a half-buried stone carved with strange markings, circles, lines, spirals. Maybe a remnant of an ancient settlement. Archaeologists now believe the Amazon was once home to millions of people. Before European contact, living in vast networks of villages connected by roads and canals. The forest you see today isn't untouched wilderness. It's the world reclaiming itself after human hands let go. It changes everything, doesn't it? The idea that this wild place was once a garden carefully managed through selective planting and controlled burns. Some species of Brazil nut trees still grow in deliberate clusters, suggesting they were cultivated centuries ago. The forest, it seems, remembers human collaboration as much as it endures human destruction. You pause near the edge of a shallow ravine where a stream winds lazily through mossy stone. The water looks silver under the fading light. In it, you see fragments of reflection, branches, clouds, maybe even ghosts. Scientists still argue about how much of the Amazon's biodiversity was shaped by human influence versus natural evolution. Was it born wild, or did people design it to look that way? The debate feels less like an argument and more like a love letter to mystery. Maybe both answers are true. A breeze stirs and you hear distant voices, real ones this time. Indigenous villagers, their language melodic and flowing, drifting faintly through the forest. Their communities still live in rhythm with this land, their traditions older than most recorded history. You can't see them, but you feel their presence in every path, every carved canoe, every patch of cultivated manioc that hides among the trees. Further ahead, a massive tree trunk arches across the trail, fallen long ago, but still alive. Its branches have re-rooted themselves into the ground. You climb over it, careful not to disturb the moss. That's the Amazon's secret. Even its dead things refuse to die. Above you, birds pass overhead, flocks of egrets, macaws, and vultures tracing invisible highways through the sky. Migration routes older than human nations. The same patterns of movement that have connected continents since the last ice age. You tilt your head trying to follow them until they vanish into the light. The forest quiets again, and a low hum rises from the soil frog's insect's wind. You kneel and scoop up a handful of dirt, feeling its weight. This soil, scientists say, shouldn't even exist. Tropical rains usually strip nutrients away, yet parts of the Amazon contain dark, fertile terra preta, rich black earth believed to be man-made. Ancient people created it by mixing charcoal, bone, and compost. It still regenerates today, centuries later. Sustainable agriculture perfected before the concept had a name. You can almost picture them, the ancestors, tending these gardens, shaping rivers with stone embankments, planting fruit trees along footpaths, laughing under the same sky. Maybe the rainforest you're walking through is less a wilderness and more a legacy, a living inheritance from a civilization that understood balance better than we do. You reach a small clearing where sunlight filters through in soft beams. A hummingbird hovers there, wings invisible, body still as thought. It drinks from a bright red heliconia bloom, then zips away with a flash of green. Time collapses for a moment. You could be standing in any century. Nearby, a half-buried pottery shard gleams in the soil, etched with a simple geometric pattern. You pick it up carefully, brushing off the dirt. Someone made this hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago, shaped it with bare hands, fired it over an open flame. They ate from it, laughed over it, maybe sang by its glow. You turn it over in your palm, so fragile, yet so enduring. Like everything here, the air thickens again, heavy with memory. Somewhere behind you, a tree creaks, a sound both ancient and immediate. The forest, you realize, is full of echoes that never stop bouncing. Scientists studying tree rings have found correlations between droughts, floods, and global events. Some of these trees were already old when Rome fell, when the Vikings sailed, when the first telescopes turned toward the stars. Each ring is a line in the planet's autobiography, written in wood instead of ink. You sit on a rock and let that thought settle. The world is so young in human years, and yet this forest feels eternal. It's been burned, flooded, logged, reborn over and over, and it still breathes. A sudden gust rustles the leaves, scattering a flurry of yellow petals across the path. They land on your arms, your knees, your hands, tiny fragments of the present moment. The petals look like falling time, soft and unstoppable. You watch them drift, feeling that strange blend of awe and melancholy that always comes with ancient places. The Amazon doesn't ask for worship, only witness. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of wet clay and something sweet fruit, maybe. A reminder that the future is already ripening somewhere nearby. You pocket the pottery shard gently and continue walking. The forest hums behind you, endlessly looping through its own history. The past, the present, the possible all, breathing together in one endless exhale. Evening descends slowly over the forest, not as a curtain, but as a deep breath. The sun melts into amber streaks that flicker between tree trunks, and shadows stretch long and gentle across the moss. The air cools, the insects change shift, and somewhere far above, a single bird calls, a soft, almost questioning sound. You've reached the edge of the waking world. The final rhythm, the canopy dream. You find a patch of soft ground near the roots of a ceiba tree. The same kind of giant that once towered over you earlier. Its roots arch upward like the ribs of a sleeping god. You sink down the earth, cushioning your weight, still warm from the day. The forest exhales, and for the first time since you arrived, you realize it's quiet, but not silent. The silence here is textured. You hear the faint drip of water falling from high leaves, the rustle of a small animal moving through the brush, the soft sigh of wind brushing through orchids. The air hums like a lullaby, the world's biggest cradle rocking in humidity and patience. As twilight deepens, the first fireflies return, tiny lanterns blinking slowly in rhythmic waves. One lands on your wrist, its light pulsing soft yellow, as if checking your heartbeat. It feels like a message you're part of this now. You lie back and stare upward. Through breaks in the canopy, fragments of sky appeared a midnight blue brushed with silver stars. Clouds drift lazily, their edges glowing faintly. Somewhere far off, thunder mutters, too tired to threaten. You think of everything you've seen tonight. The glowing fungi, the laughing dolphins, the patient trees, the singing frogs, the myths and the science. The Amazon isn't one thing. It's everything existing all at once: chaos, logic, poetry, and pulse. The air tastes of rain and leaf sap. You breathe deeply, slower each time, until your heartbeat syncs with the forest's rhythm. Even the mosquitoes, eternal nuisances of the rainforest, seem to hesitate before landing, as if they know this is sacred ground, at least for tonight. A bat darts overhead, a shadowy flicker, then another. They swoop and twist, tracing invisible arcs through the air. They eat mosquitoes like midnight heroes, the world's smallest night watch. You murmur a quiet, "Thank you," and they vanish into the dark. In the near distance, a low, steady croak begins, a frog greeting the night shift. Then another joins in, then another, until the sound expands into a tapestry of small lives, singing. It's not noise, it's continuity. The same song sung for millions of nights. You close your eyes and imagine what this place looked like before humans ever spoke its name. The same canopy, the same constellations flickering faintly above, the same rhythm of rain and respiration. You realize that in the grand sweep of time, you're just a brief visitor, passing through an ancient dream that never ends. Scientists say that rainforest air contains trace compounds, terpenes, phytoncides that actually relax the human nervous system. They slow the heart rate, reduce anxiety, ease breathing. You smile faintly. The forest is a natural therapist that doesn't charge by the hour. A cool gust passes through, smelling faintly of orchids and ozone. Somewhere nearby, a tree frog chirps, once then falls silent again. You open your eyes to see mist forming low along the ground, curling around your hands like silk. Every breath feels softer, heavier. The forest is tucking itself in, and you with it. You remember the underground web beneath you, the roots, the mycelium, the constant conversations of trees. It's still there, humming quietly, processing light and water, turning decay into life. You're lying on the planet's brain, listening to it dream. Another flash of light, a beetle this time, glowing green. You follow it with your eyes as it drifts upward, joining others in a slow waltz of luminescence. They rise toward the canopy, fading into the dark. It looks like the forest itself is ascending into the stars. You exhale slowly, your thoughts dissolving into the background hum. The worries, the noise, and the rush of daily life. All of it fades until there's only breath and heartbeat. The Amazon breathes. You breathe. The world feels balanced again, even if only in this moment. A warm droplet lands on your cheek, then another. The forest's nightly rain returns soft and slow, more like blessing than storm. You let it fall. Each drop carries the echo of an earlier cloud, a reminder of the cycle that never ends. Rain, river, mist, cloud, rain again. You're just one more molecule in that eternal loop. Your eyelids grow heavy. The fireflies dim. The frog's chorus stretches into rhythm, hypnotic and endless. The air feels thick and safe, wrapping you in its weight. And as the forest hums, you hear one last whisper, the sound of leaves shifting far above, almost like words, rest now. You belong to the green. You smile, eyes half open, watching light flicker between rain and dream. The last thing you feel is the heartbeat of the earth, steady and vast beneath you. The last thing you hear is rain turning to breath. The forest continues without you, but tonight it's keeping you in its rhythm, one slow exhale at a time. So here you are, safe still somewhere, deep in the lungs of the planet. The rain has softened to mist again. Every sound has settled into its slowest possible version. The forest no longer performs. It simply exists, pulsing in quiet contentment. You can feel that stillness pressing gently against your chest, matching your breathing. Each inhale brings the faint scent of earth and rain. Each exhale carries away a little tension. The air is warm but forgiving. The night leans closer, whispering its steady hush. If you listen closely, you can hear your own pulse syncing with a rhythm of distant water. That low rumble of thunder miles away feels almost like a heartbeat under your pillow. The frogs keep time. The trees breathe in unison. Everything moves together in soft circular motion. Let your mind drift like the clouds above the canopy. Thoughts float in, then fade, melting into the same gray-blue quiet. You don't have to hold on to anything here. The forest is holding you. Your body feels heavier now, comfortable, grounded, part of the soil and air. The mist kisses your skin, cool and gentle. Even the fireflies have stopped their dance content to glow faintly in the distance. You are no longer an observer. You are part of the atmosphere, the moisture, the rhythm, the pulse. The Amazon exhales. You follow. The night thickens around you like a lullaby. Sleep doesn't arrive suddenly. It grows like vines weaving slowly around thought. Let it. Let the forest keep breathing for you tonight. You've done enough. The rain will continue its song, the leaves will keep whispering, and the sky will still be waiting in the morning. Good night, traveler.